This way. Well, that tells you how many chickens are here, right? There's 2, 3 more farther up. Well, hello again. I'm about to start another serious adventure. This one being the most serious I've ever done in my lifetime. I'm going to be hiking from Swan Lake to Grandview, all in Manitoba, covering a distance of 150 kilometers. I'm just about 850 feet above sea level right now on the banks of Swan Lake. I had a quad ride to get in here. Had quite a truck ride actually to get into where we could quad in from. Quadded in, and now I'm in very dense understory growth, and the banks, there's about 200 meters of thick reeds and cattails and duckweed and every kind of aquatic vegetation you could think of. So I'm working my way along the shoreline until I can reach my Camp 1, where I'll spend the first night. And I just got to keep moving. I got 2.5 kilometers to go, and I got to save as much energy as I can, as I will be covering 150 kilometers over the next 10 nights. You can see how dense this vegetation is, and carrying this 50 pounds of gear, camera gear and survival gear, does not help the situation out. You know, this most certainly is not the easy breezy beach walk I thought I was going to be taking to get to my night 1 camp. These reeds and stuff and different aquatic plants and sedges are well over my head, and it's a very dense walk, and every step I get wetter. As you can see, anything that I drop in here is going to be lost for an eternity. There is not a chance of me finding or recovering any lost items. So I need to make sure everything is attached to me good, like this GPS. Well, if you're claustrophobic at all, do not come in here. I'm not claustrophobic, but I'm getting the sense of it right now. I can't see more than a foot in front of me. This is the densest vegetation I've ever walked through, and I've got 1.7 kilometers of it to go. It's scratching me up a lot. I gotta try to take it easy in here, and it's killer hot, and there's a lot of bugs.
Hello, my name is Ram Broom, and I'm in Swan Lake right now, about 400 meters from shore. This is the start point of my latest expedition, which will take me all the way to a little community called Grandview throughout Manitoba. I need to cover 150 kilometers in the next 11 days and 10 nights. Now, I've already got my first shelter built. It's on shore. I'll show you that in a minute. But I spent the whole day coming in here. I got a ride from my dad in my truck, and we quadded as far as we could, and then I walked the rest along the shoreline, which was a brutal walk, which you also see. Swan Lake, where I am standing right now, is about 850 feet above sea level, and after covering 150 kilometers, I'll see all kinds of various terrain, and when I pass through Baldy Mountain, that'll be the highest point in Manitoba pretty much, and I'll be going past that. I don't know if I'll go right to it, but I will pass it on the road. So what I need to do right now is start walking out of this lake and get back to shore and show you the shelter that I've built. Just continuing the shoreline, and what a beautiful sight this is. It's not too often you get a chance to walk 400 meters out into a lake and only be at waist depth.
Just look how thick this muck is. It's just like quicksand. Sucks you in. You know what? I'm back on shore now. Got some of my dry clothes back on. I'm using this dead mat of vegetation to sort of act as a snowshoe to keep my feet out of the mud, but it's not working. I'm obviously soaked in mud now. And it's just a really eerie feeling when you know you got 11 days ahead of you and you're already in this condition. Soaked in mud. I just swam in Swan Lake. Still got 2.5 kilometers to go. I'm carrying 55 pounds of gear on me. And it was also an eerie feeling when the quad first took off and left me here, when my dad drove me in and left me here. And you can see the footage right now. See what I mean? You're just standing there and you're thinking, okay, now what do I do? I gotta make it through 11 days by myself in the middle of nowhere. So that's what I'm dealing with here. I'm getting covered in horsefly bites right now. It's not helping the situation at all, but it's what I gotta deal with, and I gotta break this into sections at one day at a time and just keep a positive attitude until I'm in the Grandview Motor Inn. I'm back in this insanely deep, dense vegetation, working my way through to my first camp. I think there's no doubt in my mind I gotta find some tree cover for tonight's camp and get out of this stuff. It is completely exhausting to walk through it. You just basically have to swim through this stuff. Alright, as you can see, I've reached a spot on the beach where I can now stay on stable ground without sinking to my knees in that murky clay. And now I can cover a lot more ground. The beach is open, it's solid, and I can walk fast. I encountered a serious problem in there. I was going through tons of stinging nettle, and my skin is already irritated from it. I should have been wearing long sleeves, but it's just so burning hot out here. Probably hottest day of the month so far. So I can't handle the heat as it is, so there's no way I'm wearing long sleeves right now. These reeds and stuff here you see behind me, that's what I spent the majority of the day walking through already. As you can see, it's well above my head. It's very difficult to navigate, know where you're going. But now, where the camera is on solid beach, and it's a lot better walking now. And behind it is, of course, Swan Lake. Just 135 meters from my first camp. I finally found a dry spot to sit down, and I don't want to miss my opportunity here to take a little breather, because after this it's hard to say if there is going to be another dry spot. I'm just on the trunk of a willow tree right now, right along the lake. I've seen a fish jump, most likely a white sucker. It's in the shallow water, so I can't see it being anything else. And I'm just going to keep going here. I'm starting to feel the first hunger pains, and as always, you make it through the first bunch of birds flying by. You make it through the first 24-30 hours, and then all of a sudden they go away, and you seem to be able to go 4 or 5 days with no hunger pains like this. So I'm just gonna tough it out, and if I need to, I'll have a chocolate bar tonight, because I got 7 chocolate bars. So hopefully that's enough to get me through the 11-day adventure that I'm on. I'm just studying my map here a little bit as I take a breather. One of the things I find most interesting about this water body I'm looking at, Swan Lake, is just the vastness of it. It is 33 kilometers north to south at the longest point, and roughly 16 or 17 kilometers east-west. That's a huge area of water, and it's not deep or anything significant like that, but it's just amazing how much area it covers. And the thing is, at the north end, the Shoal River runs into Lake Winnipegosis, which, as we all know, is a giant lake. And basically every creek and river in the valley, Swan River, Roaring River, Ruby River, Fable River, eventually they all end up in this lake one way or another. And it's just amazing how many tributaries and creeks, and just the thought of how all the land is just constantly flowing. May not look like it in the summertime, but it's true. All the water is moving to right here, and eventually it does get here. It's the Swan Valley watershed. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing geographical feature of the area we live in. I just can't believe it. Well, I've reached my destination. I'm at my first campsite. There's some bigger willow trees behind me. I'm gonna go into them, find a dry spot, some suitable firewood, and call her a night right here. There's pelicans flying by me constantly. Might as well call this lake Pelican Lake rather than Swan Lake, but I think there's already a pelican lake just to the east, so you can't really do that. There goes another flock. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but I just came through all these aquatic plants, shore plants or whatever, and it's been a very tough day, so I'm ready for a good rest. So I decided it'd be nice to camp right close to the lake here where I can keep an eye on my camera. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to hack down as much reed grass as I can possibly hack down. And I've never done this before, but I'm going to try to make some form of shelter out of this grass. I'm just going to lay a thick mat of it down on the ground to keep my body off the wet ground. And then I'm going to get into those willows. You can see the bigger trees behind me there. I'm going to get into there and see if there's any dead material on the ground that I can use for fire, and gather up any sort of frame that I can put together using it. So I'm just going to keep building now and see what happens, see how it turns out. Okay, for the most part, the ground is done. I got about a half a foot of these reeds laid down, and that should be sufficient enough. Now I need to worry about making a roof. So I seen some willows back there. I'm gonna go and take a look and see what I can find and drag as many of them out as I can to make a roof structure. And then I can fill it in with more reeds to make it waterproof. Here's the willows. Well, my shelter looks like it is ready for use now. Kind of built like a little dome. I used the biggest, thickest willows I could find, sharpened them a little bit, and jabbed them into this soft, muddy ground. And then I threw all of these reeds on top of them, and some more willows on top of that, and I weaved everything I could. The roof's about 2 or 3 feet thick of reeds, and I imagine as long as there's no serious rainstorm, any moisture will be kept out. A little rain wouldn't hurt this place. And I also I'm going to use this survival blanket right here, as I always do, keep me off of this grass, and it just keeps me that much higher off the ground. Just a little barrier between me and the earth. And I hope to get a good rest because tomorrow is my biggest stretch out of this entire journey. I have to walk, I think, 17 or 18 kilometers, I forget what it is. I got to cover that distance, and it's also the roughest terrain. I'll be going through some more reeds like you've seen today. And I will be camping at a lake for night too. A much smaller lake, I might add. And I'm excited for that. I'll get cleaned up and I'll be able to put some dry socks on. I'm just going to keep the socks on I have now until the end of tomorrow, because if I change them, they're just going to get wet in the morning. So I got to make these ones last one more day. A small problem that I'm encountering today is the lack of water. I brought a 1.5 liter bottle of water today, and it is nearly gone. Just the temperature today was very hot, and walking through that dense grass and reeds really dehydrated me, so I drank it pretty quick. However, there is other ways to find water, and I've cut this spotted touch-me-not plant. It's also known as a jewel weed. I cut the root right out of the ground here, and there is water built up in it. However, I'm gonna avoid this and just drink the water I brought that I know for sure is safe, because the thing with this water is this plant, although the seeds are edible, it contains calcium oxalate crystals, and most books recommend that you change the water twice when you're boiling this plant to make it safe, and then to discard the water. So to drink the water right out of the plant would probably not be a good idea. So I'm just going to show you a closer up image of this, and then I'm going to toss it. Everything you see behind me here, these are bulrushes. And I just pulled one of these starchy roots right out of the ground here, as you can see. And I'm just chewing it to get some water out of it. And actually it has a very sweet flavor. And I would even dare to say this is the best tasting plant I've ever had. There's just so much food there. And they're so abundant, as you can see. That is delicious. And you can hear that water. So it gives you a bit of a drink as well. I just collected a bunch more bulrushes. To be exact, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I got a dozen bulrushes. And I'm pretty sure these are the ones that are called the soft stem bulrush, but I could be wrong. And I'm just gonna snack on these all night in my shelter. That way I can save the water I did bring for as long as time as possible until I get to a nice fresh lake or something where I can find some more, or a spring. So this will give me some food value, plus they're full of water, which is great. 2 things in one. That star behind me is above the tripod. That's our sun. And just in our own galaxy, the Milky Way, there's billions of stars. And the other thing is, the Milky Way is only one of billions of galaxies. So it's just phenomenal what's out there in the night sky. I'm just getting ready for bed here, having a little snack. I'm at the beginning of Alright, whoever's doing those titles and transitions has got to watch it. That one almost hit me. I'm trying to do a show here. Alright, so before I was so rudely interrupted there, I was going to say it's night one, but obviously you already know that. So yeah, I'm heading to bed. I'm having this Vector energy bar, has a last minute snack. I got 5 more to go, carry me through to Grandview. And I got to be collecting as much wild foods and natural foods as I can. To also help me get through, because trust me, these won't last very long. I'm gonna have to ration them very well. Just brushing my teeth here. I don't usually do this on any hikes or survival missions, but I had a bit of a toothache before I even came out here, and I was just thinking the last thing I need is a toothache. That would really devastate this hike. I could still make it, but it would be very painful, so I'm not taking any chances. I'm gonna make sure I clean my teeth good every night. Alright, I'm just preparing for bed here, and the mosquitoes are absolutely phenomenal, and that's in a bad way. So I gotta make a fire quick, and no, this fire isn't for my warmth tonight. I'm not too worried about that. I'm more concerned about smoking all these things, because there is just a cloud of them right around my head right now. This might not turn out to be a very great night after all, because I couldn't find any firewood. Basically, I'm using dry reed grass and a couple dead willows I found. I've never made a fire this small, so I'm hoping what I do have is gonna last all night. Like I was saying, the bugs are absolutely phenomenal. Can't believe it. I am getting swarmed. This is by no means fun. Well, that's my view of the lake. Now to focus on this fire. See what I can do to reduce these mosquitoes for a few hours. Here it is. This is my bed and I'm getting mangled by mosquitoes right now. My fire is going out consistently. Can't seem to get it going because there's no fuel supply. Just a couple dead willows. A lot of dry reed grass, but not having any luck. I guess I just have to put up with the mosquitoes for, who knows, 3, 4, 5 more hours maybe. And then I'll wake up and walk all day. And do it again tomorrow. And then for 8 more nights after that. Sometimes I wonder why I come out here. It's the beginning of day 2. Had a pretty decent sleep. I'm all geared up, ready to go. To get to my next camp, I'll need to cover a distance of 18 kilometers. And the first 500 or 600 meters is going to be all cattails and reeds, just like yesterday, until I start coming up elevation into some treed land. And the elevation only rises by about 50 feet, so I'm not dealing with a huge hill here. But it is going to be nice to get into some solid trees for once, because as you can see, I've been dealing with this for quite some time now. And this backpack is very heavy. I covered 2.7 kilometers yesterday, and that was enough to already break me in and make me feel the pain. So just 9 more days to go now. Take one last look at the shelter there. That's the last time I'll see Swan Lake for quite some time. This is the little trail I cut out to make the shelter. That's where all the reeds came from. And everything is in here is soaked. While I'm in here, there is one thing I wanted to mention. I did get a fire going last night in right inside my shelter, and I just couldn't handle the mosquitoes. So what I did was I came out here to these willow trees and I climbed them and I broke off 2 very big branches. You can see where I chopped it off there. I chopped those off, and with a lot of effort I got a fire going, and it smoked the mosquitoes out for the most part, but they were pretty relentless anyways. I've come out in this area. It's just all bogbirch for the next couple hundred meters. I've ran into my first softwood trees, past a couple tamaracks. They're right in behind me there, and the good news is I can see some aspen ahead, which means drier ground. And I'm heading there. It's still about 1 kilometer to go yet though. And this bogbirch is very wet and soaked through my pants already in minutes. So I just got to keep going and get to dry ground. In the aspen stand now. It's a very small aspen stand, just a little island of trees. And then I got to move on through another swamp, and then there's another patch of aspen, and then I believe after that is where the elevation starts increasing for me. So I'm going to take a little break here because that bogbirch swamp really done me in. Well, it just got a lot rougher. I'm in an actual swamp now with full-blown cattails. Stepped in about 2 feet of water just now. And I just really want to get on dry land so I can relax a bit, but it doesn't seem to be going that way right now. Oh no. Just goes to show, once you get through one march, don't get your hopes up and think, oh great, I'm done, I don't have to deal with that anymore. There's 50 meters of aspen, then all of a sudden you're right back in it. And this march is like one of the worst ones I walked through. There's dead snags everywhere, deadfall everywhere. So not only you're wading through waist deep water, you're also catching your foot on every rotten log there is, also getting eaten by mosquitoes. So this isn't the most exciting part of day 2. Out of the swamp, back into the trembling aspen. And once again, found myself in a beaver run. And now I'm beginning to climb some elevation here. I'm going up to about 875 feet, which is not much. That's only a 25-foot increase. But I notice trees are getting denser, ground is drier, and it's just getting better and better now. I just heard a crash in the bush a little ways away, so the first thing I did is I looked to my side to make sure I had my knife ready, and I didn't. My knife is gone. These stupid buttons kept on coming undone, and the result is the knife fell out. So now I'm out without my survival knife, which is a very important thing that I carry, and I'll have to make do without it, I guess. My feet are soaked. I'm feeling pretty rough right now because of those swamps were unbearable, and now I got no knife. So I try to think positive, and the only positive thing that I can think of this occurrence is that now that my knife is gone, that's one less thing I have to carry. I'm really looking forward to getting out of this aspen. It's just so thick of hazel, it's tough to walk in, and I've been doing enough of that for the past 2 days. So I'm kind of taking a shortcut, veering off and to hit one of the trails that I came in on, and I'm going to walk that to my camp too. There's so much hazel in here, it's unbearable. And one positive side of that is I can eat some of the hazelnuts. They're not quite ripe yet, but I have been snacking on them, and they are decent. I've been hiking along here for quite some time, and this is one of the hardest hikes I've ever done because of the heat, the bugs, and everything else. I fell quite a few times. There's little potholes and mountains, and trips you up, and I fell about 3 times in a row, and then I just laid there for about 2 hours and slept. So quite a bit of time has passed. It's actually 2:50 p.m. and I've only covered maybe 3 kilometers today, which is absolutely ridiculous. But at least I'm coming out on a road in 900 meters, which will help me out a lot. Thirst has been my biggest issue today. It's causing me quite the headache, dehydration and heat exhaustion. And I finally came across a little pothole with fresh, clean water in it, filtered by the moss and everything. So just taking this opportunity while I can to fill up on it. So much dirt in there. Finally reached the trail. As much as I like to rely on GPSs, they can't always be trusted. I ended up doing 2 circles. The hazels were so thick I couldn't see a foot in front of my face. And then I ended up doing a big 100-meter circle, which drained the energy out of me. But I am on the trail now, and everything gets easier from here. Just walking along some of these Kettle Hills trails, starting to feel pretty parched. I need to get some water, and I think I'm gonna stop at some of these blueberry camps and see if I can buy some water. This is originally a spot where I was dropped off on the quad. Alright, just to give you a quick update on my status, I got a confession to make. After day 1 there, hiking up in the Kettle Hills area, I had to pull out due to heat exhaustion. I made it to the blueberry camp and used someone's cell phone and was picked up and taken out of there. I got to the state where I felt like if I pushed it any further, I was only going to make it to Cowan anyways. And even then I still had 30 kilometers to get to Cowan, and I just thought if I didn't get a lot of water in me fast that it could go from a pretty serious situation to a critical situation. So I pulled out. I was having dizzy spells and all the symptoms, so I got out of there while I still had the right mindset to make that decision. And so that pretty much was the end of that idea. But I didn't want to give it up there yet, so just give me a second. I'll grab my hat and I'll tell you the new plan. Okay, so the new current plan is I'm not going to leave it right there. I'm going to do something to make up for that, because I know I claimed I was going to go 130 kilometers over 10 nights. And obviously I never made it. I only made it about 10 kilometers, and I was walking in all those swamps you seen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm starting right at my house. I just left my house 5 minutes ago, and I'm cutting straight cross country southwest, heading to Blue Lakes, cabins at Blue Lakes. It's about a 41 kilometer walk, so that will take me probably 6 nights. I'll be there on Sunday night. It's August 10th right now. And then from there, I'm just going to be honest, I don't know if I'll be able to continue on after that or not. Maybe I'll have the same situation, or maybe something else will happen. So if I want to, I can end it at the Blue Lake cabins where I know I'm safe. But if I still feel that I have the energy to continue on, I'm going to. And that I promise. If I feel that I can, I'm going to push it right to Grandview, which is 52 kilometers of gravel road. So I'm going to need to feel darn good to be able to do that. So let's see how I do after this. And not going to make any ridiculous claims this time. I'm really disappointed, terribly disappointed that I couldn't make it right from Swan Lake to Grandview, as I did spend 6 months planning that. Spent all kinds of money, all kinds of sleepless nights drawing maps and everything, and it just didn't work out. One day in Manitoba crashed me. And you know, it's funny because I was thinking this entire time before doing this hike that, oh yeah, like I've been hiking in the mountains for the past 4 or 5 months. Manitoba should be no problem. It's just flat anyways, just flat, nice ground. But then you get into swamps. I spent hours in the swamps, countless hours, getting mangled by horseflies and mosquitoes and every insect. And then I get out of the swamps and into ridiculously thick hazel, beaked hazel, and that was almost worse than the swamps. It was just impossible to move through, and I had to go through 2 kilometers of that. And then to top it all off, I got the heat exhaustion. So just a combination of things just killed me. So yeah, it is no joke. I underestimated it, and now I'm ready to take another stab at it right now. Just hiking through our land now, And one of the biggest mistakes I made in that last attempt there was the amount of weight I took. I had over 50 pounds of gear, took way too much stuff in my backpack. I reduced that by about 10, 12 pounds probably, and what a difference it made. I don't even really notice the backpack anymore. And this is just dense undergrowth I'm walking through right now. So many ferns and stuff. Just crossing some pasture land here. And although I still have a lot of energy left from supper, had a couple steaks there, I want to get my mind focused on survival here. And to do that, I'm not going to mess around. I'm just going to get right into it and eat as much as I can on the way, since every calorie counts after a few days. And so to start off, I got myself a locust there, little grasshopper. And I'm not going to waste any time, I'm just going to get right to it here. That is quite crunchy. Reminds me a lot of eating Sawyer beetles. Time to keep moving. Alright, I completed the first stretch, and this is a very familiar spot. Actually, about 11 months ago in my very first survival video that I made, I stood right here and did a little scene, so just reliving the past I guess now, except in high definition this time. But of course this shot won't be too good because the sun's right behind me setting in the west there. Which means I only got a couple hours of daylight, so I gotta get going. Cut block you're looking at is one I filmed about 11 months ago in my first video. Okay. So I'm leaving the view of the Swan Valley behind and entering Duck Mountain Provincial Forest, heading up to that cabin. You know, I started off in Swan Lake 2 days ago at an elevation of 825 feet and the bugs were horrible then. And now I'm up at 1,875 feet. And let me be serious just for 1 minute. Just because of the elevation increase, it does not mean the bugs have lessened. In fact, they're probably even worse up here. Has a lot to do with the time of day too and the temperature, but they're biting right through my pants and everything, so I have to put on my sweater. It's plus 30 degrees and I do not like putting on sweaters when it's plus 30, but I got to protect my arms right now. Alright, it's a simple formula. New layer equals a new attitude. You know, sometimes I get carried away and I try to tough things out like I did in Swan Lake there. I get in that mindset where I got to make it to point B or C or whatever point it is I'm going to, and I don't want to let anything stop me. Dehydration, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, or whatever. I'm focused on getting there, and I run into all these problems and I just keep trucking, just toughing it out, and that's what brings a person down. Just like now, I wanted to get to the cabin without taking a single break so I could get there before dark and rest, and I was getting mangled by these mosquitoes. And then I thought to myself, you know, if I just continue on like this, I'm just going to burn myself out again. And I don't want to do that. This time I actually want to complete my destination. I want to make it to my destination. So I stopped and I put on this layer. Just getting swarmed right now. Close to one of the worst days I've ever seen. gets to the point where you can barely breathe or think straight because they're going in your nostrils, getting your chin. This is just one of those things though. Whether it's -40, you're getting pelted by mosquitoes, or you're in waist deep water. In stressful moments like this, you just got to keep your mind straight, focus on the task, continue on, as hard as it may sound. This is getting a little insane now. It's getting a little dusky here. Still got about 1.5 kilometers to go yet though. I'm now navigating through the night. I've come back out on this trail, on the Brush Creek Cabin Trail. It's getting a little chilly, but I'm still sweating because of how fast I'm moving to avoid these bugs. I've reached the cabin, and a lot has changed here. There's a tree down right in front of the cabin. It's been about a year since I've been here. There's no windows in here anymore. It's not going to be a very comfortable night, but it's definitely better than a lean-to, so I'm going to make the most out of this opportunity. Just got myself a little fire going here. It's pitch black in this cabin, and I went down to Brush Creek and got a couple gallons of water in this rusty pail I found, just in the rare event that a fire got loose on me. In this old wood stove, this cabin's ready to spark up. It's so dry in here, so I want to have water on hand rather than panicking and running down to the creek at 3 in the morning when the wall starts on fire. So just taking extra caution here. I've got some good news and I got some bad news. I'm going to give you the bad news first this time. An innocent dark-eyed jungle has passed away in the Brush Creek cabin. Now it's been here for about 3 or 4 months, it looks like, judging by all the mouse droppings on top of it right now. It is completely covered in them. There's a bird nest above me, perhaps that was the nest it made. But the thing is it is no longer living, no longer amongst us. And I always try to turn things into a positive when they're starting off as a negative. Trying to be a little optimistic. And the only thing I could think of positive about a dark-eyed junco dying is the fact I brought very little food, only two bars that have to last me at least 5 more nights until I get to the Blue Lake cabins. And so now I can turn this negative situation into something positive by using it for food for myself, giving me more energy to carry on tomorrow. It is a little old, but that's fine, I'm going to eat it anyways. So I'm just going to eat it the way it is right now. Oh my God. That hurts. Oh God. That is so good. Feels so good to eat that. I didn't eat it. There's no chance I would ever eat that, and it's not even safe. The risk of hantavirus from all these mouse droppings and the dark-eyed junco being contaminated and everything. So what I am doing is I'm drinking a lot of water since I never drank any all the way up here, and I just learned from my GPS system that I've covered 9.5 kilometers today. And I'm doing a little sorry for the interruption, but I always get tricked. When my light hits one window, it reflects on the other and it looks like light's coming in the cabin, so it always kind of scares me. But what I was saying there is I'm doing a little route planning for tomorrow. It's 5 after midnight right now, so that makes it August 11th, and I'm just not quite ready for bed yet. I'm full of energy, actually. I've never felt so great after. I'm feeling good. I did that. Another thing scared me there. I did 9.5 kilometers and I never took one break other than the mosquito break there. And I kept moving at a steady pace. Covered a lot of ground and I did it fast. I only took one wrong turn, but I corrected that fast. I'm here at the cabin as planned. My feet are soaked. I'm gonna dry out my socks tonight and probably put on some fresh socks for tomorrow. And I'm excited. I'm excited and thinking that I can do this. I only see one obstacle being a problem, and that is crossing the Shell River. I saw it on my topo map today, and I've seen the Shell River, and I know there's no bridges in this area that I'm going to. So I'm wondering how on earth am I going to cross the Shell River when I get there. I do not want to follow it because I'll be following it for miles and miles before I have any chance to cross it. So I must cross it somehow. But I can't swim, and even if I could, I got all this gear to get across. So that's a problem, and I'm gonna see if I can deal with it when the time comes. Hopefully the beavers have worked well ahead of me and prepared a crossing for me. But yeah, I'm holding off going to sleep for 2 reasons. All the mouse droppings kind of got me a little disturbed, a little scared of the fumes and hantavirus potential, and I'm also full of energy from that walk, so I don't really want to sleep. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read my plant book, study a few plants. I do that almost daily now, and just take it slow, I guess, until I'm ready for sleep. Just setting up my bed here. No use complicating things with all these fancy mattresses and box springs and queen and king size beds and all that stuff. You can set something up in 2 seconds if you just bring a space blanket like this. Here I am, 1 a.m. August 11th, 2009, at Brush Creek, Manitoba, just south of Swan Valley in the Duck Mountain Provincial Park, at the beginning of an extensive journey to the Blue Lake cabins, possibly right to Grandview. And here I am sleeping on the floor of a very old cabin, a trapper's cabin. It is covered in mouse droppings right now. There are dead birds in here, and my pillow is merely a little plastic bag full of socks, and it's a good pillow actually. And I'm flat on my back right on the middle of the floor next to the wood stove, and I hope that I can close my eyes for at least a few hours and get some sleep, if that's possible. Just 10 after 8 a.m. August 11th, and beginning of day 2 here. For the most part, my boots are dry. I'm just giving them one last little warm up, and then it's time to pack up and get out of here. Always gotta make sure the fire's out. This plant right here is called fireweed, and the young leaves are edible. You can eat them raw, and I don't think these are that young of leaves, but still gonna eat a few of them. They might be a little bit older. Still pretty fresh, and I'm just gonna eat them raw like that and get some vitamin C in me. A little on the bitter side. Boiling would help. Pretty thick bush in here today. Looks like I just came out at the eye of the forest. It's a mineral lake where all kinds of ungulates come to get minerals out of the soil and the standing water. All kinds of wildlife here. I've seen moose, elk, deer, you name it, they come here and frequently. About 2.6 kilometers upstream is a small 300-meter long lake called North Lake. Tiny little lake, and that's where this water is coming from. I would love to be able to hike up there someday and see it, but it's not going to happen right now. Got other plans. But this water is crystal clear. It's basically spring water, or so I used to think anyways. And what I'm going to do now is drink all the water I had remaining, and then fill up my water bottles, drink a little more, and then fill up my water bottles until they're peaked right up. I'm now at the plains. I'm gonna cross them right now, head down to the river and see if I can find those otters from last year, and possibly do a bit of swimming with some otters. The site of my shelter last year. Just rigging up a little line and hook here. I'm gonna try to catch some chubs. I've caught lots of chubs out of this river before, so I figure why not. Getting pretty hungry, so gotta eat something. And I did just eat off camera. I just ate one of my Vector bars. So that leaves me with just one more. And then I also forgot to mention I have survival food, a 1 pack of mashed potatoes. You boil the water, and then you mix the dry powder, and it turns into about 2 servings of food. So that should be able to get me through to Blue Lakes, at which point I can buy a meal and some more bars. And until then, I'm going to try to catch some fish so that I can save the guaranteed food for later and eat the possible food if I catch anything. Alright, here goes nothing. Cast out there.
was hanging onto that rock, using it as an anchor, slow me down in this high, fast flowing water. Like a few rain clouds moving in here. Not sure if I'll make it to McGaw Lake or not before the rain. Well, after messing around waiting to see if it was going to rain or not for 2 hours, pulling one little shiner out of the water, I've made my choice that I'm going to move on to McGaw Lake. I want to try to make it there. It's already 3:40, so it'd be nice if I was there by 6 or 7, and there will already be a shelter built, so I just need to worry about fire. Hopefully the shelter's still there from last year. So time to move on, I guess. Standing here at TP Creek, just on the other side is the trapper's cabin. I'm gonna take a little break there and then carry on to McGaw Lake. Here you have it. This is the TP Creek cabin. Just about 2.5 kilometers from McGaw Lake now. I actually have 3.8 kilometers, I think, right to the lake, so one last stretch for day 2. I still have over just 2 kilometers to get to the McGaw Lake, where I have a shelter there from last year, and I hope to get there quick because there is a storm brewing above me. I don't know what it'll bring. Hopefully it passes over, but it's looking like it could rain pretty hard tonight, so I got to be ready in the next hour here. And one thing that is stressing me right out are the bugs. I'm getting covered in black flies and no-see-ums, and I never realized my arms were in such rough shape, but they are just cut up and nicked and bitten in the back of my neck. And those no-see-ums are going in my hair and eyes and everything, and you can't even see them. So I don't know what to do about that. I'm just gonna keep walking. I gotta put on another layer, as hot as it is, sweating. I gotta put on another layer, otherwise the bugs are gonna get the best of me. I had to take cover under the spruce tree. It's raining now. It's not pouring, but it is raining pretty steady. And it's unfortunate I only had 800 meters to go until the turn to McGaw Lake. I could have made it there in about half an hour at the pace I was moving. I really wanted to get there because I knew there was a shelter and I could build onto it or whatever, but now I'm under this big spruce tree here. It's doing a good job at keeping the rain off, so I'm going to hang out here
for 5 or 10 minutes and see if this is gonna pass over or not. If it doesn't pass, I'm gonna have to build a shelter right here. And if it does pass, I'm gonna move on to McGaw Lake. I reached McGaw Lake. I'm soaked. Starting to feel a little chilled and a little bit dizzy too from all these bugs. So I got to get a fire. Going first of all, and dry my clothes. There's barely nothing left in my shelter. I've never seen an old shelter decompose so quick in just 1 year. But it was mainly spruce branches. So it's all gone now. I'm gonna build one just on the other side. But first I gotta get a fire going. I'm freezing here. So basically what you see there, I'm drying out all my clothes. If I'm gonna make it through the night, I need to be dry. I'm really close to the fire, so I'm sweating. But I gotta get some food in me, so I guess I'm gonna cook that fish. And I picked about 20 hazelnuts to roast tonight, so I just hope it does not rain again because I really need to start off dry. And this bush is soaked and it's gonna take a long time for it to dry off naturally. So there's the fish I caught, and I mixed in some hazelnuts, and a bit of water, and what I'm hoping is that the juices from the hazelnuts kind of flavor it. And that's my supper tonight. So now I'll just get that on the grill there. Put a little lid on that. It's never a bad idea to kind of smoke out your feet, kill any fungus. My feet are getting really soft from being in soaking wet boots for the past 2 days. So I should really take the time to dry out my footwear as well as possible and my feet. Kill any fungus that may be there. And the only thing that I'm really motivated right now, and I still got lots of energy. Still feeling good about making it right to Blue Lakes and maybe even further. And the only thing that could stop me is bad feet, blisters. But even if my feet blister out on me, I'm already at the distance where it's just as easy to go to Blue Lakes now than it is to go back home. It's about 25, 26 kilometers straight across to Blue Lakes, and it's about a 20-kilometer walk home, so I might as well go to Blue Lakes no matter what now. Looks like my dinner is ready. This is part of the fish that fell off. I think it's the eye and some of the guts. So I'm gonna eat that. Oh, big chunk of bone there. It is pretty bony. The spine I can just crunch right up. This fell on the pine needles. Alright, there's most of the meat right there. Emerald Shiner straight out of the roaring river in Jumper Plains, Manitoba. I don't want to sound like one of those people that says, oh, that tastes like chicken, or everything tastes like chicken all the time. Well, this almost tastes a lot like trout. That's on a much smaller scale, of course. Just eating some of these hazelnuts now. I didn't taste the juice that I was expecting to in the flesh of the fish, but normally the shells of these, the protective casing on these nuts are really bristly and prickly, and they peeled no problem after being boiled, and the outer shell is really soft as well. And you can taste the juice a lot stronger now. It's kind of absorbed into it. Delicious. Just gonna drink all the liquids that are left from this fish and hazelnuts I cooked. It's got a strong hazel flavor. Alright, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna put away the camera for the night. The trees are really dripping a lot of moisture, and I can't have cameras out when it's this wet, and I gotta get some dry clothes back on and do some maintenance on this fire before it goes out. Last thing I need is to be running around with bare feet trying to fight a fire, or to build a fire, I mean. So that's it for tonight, and this has been night 2. Alright, so just getting rolling on day 2 here. I'm going to hang around at McGaw Lake for most of the day since the bush is still soaking wet, and I spent so much effort last night keeping the fire going to keep my clothes dry that I figured it'd be a huge disappointment to just go and get soaked again. So the sun's burning pretty bright today, and I figure in a couple hours it'll dry most of the bush off. But I found some goldenrod along the shore here, and I've never actually tried it, but I've heard that it makes some pretty sweet smelling tea, so I'm going to take these flower heads and I'm going to make some tea. I split one open here so you could see there's the seeds inside. See, there's the goldenrod mixed in there for flavor. Alright, I'm just wading into McGaw Lake here now. Sitting by the fire all night left me smelling like smoke, covered in soot and stuff, so it's always nice to get cleaned off in the morning. It's 10:30 almost, so it will be great to clean up before I move on, and my boots are getting very dry. The sun is burning bright and the bush is getting dry, so I'm very glad that I waited it out and waited for the bush to dry rather than just giving her first thing in the morning and getting soaked again. So I'm going to go for a little swim here and see what kind of last minute snacks I can pull out of the water while I'm giving my boots one more hour of drying. Got my little fishing line here, so let's see what I can catch. managed to find 2 nice sized snails just like this one. Looks like my vegetables are done. Very crispy. While I was swimming, oh, here are the loons. While I was swimming, the water evaporated, steamed off, and now they are burnt. So, see what I can get out of them still. One positive thing about this is the fact that the seeds inside these cal lilies pop just like popcorn. Fire is out, I'm all geared up, and I'm ready to hit the trail, get back on the main trail, and head straight across towards Blue Lakes. One last look at one of the nicest lakes in all of Duck Mountain. This is the main trail. I turn here, start heading south towards Blue Lakes now. I'm coming close to the end of this TP Creek trail. This is one of the last spots I remember filming the first time I made a video here, and I remember it was right on the top of this hill when my battery first started dying. But that shouldn't be a problem now that I got 8 spare batteries, and I've only went through 1 so far, so not too worried about batteries, but I am worried about my feet. They're getting soaked again. Back into some really thick hazel and going uphill, and I'm really starting to hate this hazel stuff. Straight cross country through the hazel and everything. It's really turning out to be quite the battle. I've only covered about 600 meters in the past 20 minutes, 30 minutes, which isn't good. It's slowing me down a lot, this country, so it's going to turn into a few more nights than I expected. I think anyways, unless I run into some better luck. But right now, I'm going to drink some water, that came from McGaw Lake. I wasn't gonna drink it because it was pretty dirty, but I figured I better fill up just in case I don't find any clear streams. And I haven't found any clear streams, and I might not for a while, so I gotta keep my fluid levels good before I dehydrate myself again. And this time there's no one here to get me out of this, so if I have a heat stroke now, I'm on my own. It's about 11 kilometers to Sarah Lake Road, 20 kilometers to Wellman Lake Road. It's a good walk back to the cabin. There's no help out here anyway, so I'm on my own, completely alone. Yeah, that tastes like McGaw Lake, alright. I'm standing here in an absolute jungle of beaked hazel. At least there's lots of things for me to eat. I can eat these hazelnuts. But as far as the eye can see is nothing but the same type of landscape. Even-aged aspen and hazel. You know, it's always easy to say, yeah, I'm gonna go 11 kilometers today. When there's an obstacle like this thrown in front of you, kind of backfires your plan. I'm constantly changing my plans, and I'm already thinking of a backup route if I can't cross the Shell River, which is to come out at Mosquito Lake on Wellman Lake Road, 10 kilometers north of the Blue Lakes where I originally planned to come out. This is just horrible. And after 2 days of this, I might want to take the shortcut, because this is pretty much like walking in waist deep snow again. This would be a great spot for a shelter tonight, but I've barely covered any ground. If I want to make it to Blue Lakes or Wellman Lake Road, I have to keep moving. I have to get at least 3 more kilometers today. Finally found a little spring. It shows on my GPS that it goes about 600 meters up this slope. It's a pretty steep slope. It's all this hazel. So I dumped out my McGaw Lake water and replaced it with this, and I'm drinking as much as I can right now, because I'd much rather have this fresh running water than still water out of a lake like McGaw Lake that's leech infested, as you've seen on my legs. I'm back into this nightmare of hazel, and it's so thick that one of my batteries actually got ripped right out, and it's now gone forever. Like I said when I was at Swan Lake walking in that reed grass. Whenever you lose in this kind of stuff, it's not even worth the effort to go back looking for it, especially when you got a lot of ground to cover. Even if I lost this very camera, it's very unlikely I'd go back for it unless I knew roughly where it was. Just the amount of searching it would take, and it's just such a jungle, it's like a needle in a haystack. The next couple 100 meters here, I'm going to have to think hard about whether I want to build a shelter right now or wait till Game Line Lake. I think it's probably best if I build one right now or pretty soon, because once again, with my luck, there's some thunderclouds rolling in and it's probably going to rain. So I think I'm going to go up into the thickest spruce trees I can find and set something up there, but it has to be close to water because I got the risk of fire. But in the meantime, I'm just snacking on some more beaked hazel. You can recognize it by this type of serrated leaf like that. And that's what the hazelnuts look like. I just peel it back a little bit like that, and then I bite my way into it till it pops out of the shell, and then I crack it open, and the rest is history. Alright, I've reached my conclusion. I can't pass this opportunity. There's a lot of birch trees behind me which are great for starting fire. There's two big spruce. One's on relatively flat ground, which will be great for a shelter. So I can't ignore this. I gotta stop here and build a shelter.
Before I start hacking away on trees and stuff, I always like to survey the scene a little bit and see if there's any potential for danger above my head.
The rain hasn't let off once yet. My fire is barely going. I don't have any shelter at all, pretty much. Just taking natural shelter under this big spruce. Not a good night. It's gonna rain hard all night. Alright, so that night is over. Sat by the fire all night. It rained all night as predicted. It's still sprinkling a little bit now. It was a cold one. And I made it through, but what concerns me the most is how wet the bush is. You seen how thick those hazels were? It's just going to be like swimming in a river. And I have to make it approximately 10 kilometers through this stuff before I come out on a known trail, according to my GPS. And it's not even a guarantee that the trail is there. It could be some old grown-in trail from 10 years ago. So what I did last night is I dragged some big birch logs in and continuously broke off some dry spruce branches to put under them. I was trying to split them, but they were so wet they never even burnt in half all night. I'll show you that right now. You see, they never even burnt in half, so keeping a fire going steady was very difficult. I would have flash fires, like I'd get up, throw some dry branches on, it would flash up for 5 minutes and then be right out again. And that went on all night. I'm pretty damp right now. I got a little bit wet, just tiny little raindrops hitting me. I wasn't getting poured on or anything though. I never built a shelter at all, which was kind of a stupid mistake, but by the time I got here I was out of energy. And I didn't have much daylight anyways, and I didn't feel like trying to build an entire wall for this tree. So I just counted my loss and took it. And I ate those potatoes last night. That gave me a bit of energy. It felt good to eat something warm. Heated me up a little bit. Gave me some motivation. But the funny story is the dreams I was having. I find after 3 or 4 days in the bush, you start to have some crazy dreams, especially in the winter. And last night I dreamed that I was up some tower, possibly the Baldy Mountain Tower. I was hiking up there to get a shot of it with my high-definition camera. And there was an elevator up there somehow. And when I set it on the elevator, it slid off and fell to the bottom and smashed. And so I said to my other camera, okay, that's it, I'm done. I'm going home. I'm calling it quits. I walked down to the bottom of the tower, and there was an old lady standing there with a cup of hot chocolate and a high-definition camera, and she said, oh, I seen you were having some trouble there, I caught it for you. And then I opened my eyes, and I'm sitting in the rain right by my fire, in reality. So that kind of really messed with my mind there, and that was just one dream out of many. So right now, I got to refocus, obviously, and pack up my gear. That was reality. Pack up my gear and get on the move. Continuing on my way. This is I gotta say, this is probably the worst hike I've ever done in my life now. I'm through the thick hazel again. I still have 8 kilometers to go till I reach a trail which might not even be there. Well, gotta continue on just past Game Line Lake. 8 kilometers to go till I reach a known trail on the GPS. I came out in this cut block. There's a bit of an in-block road here I'm following right now for the time being, but it's certainly no break. It's boggy and grassy. I just crossed a pretty significant swamp back there. It didn't look deep, it looked like a foot deep, but it was floating bog, and once I got in it, I was up to my waist, and my backpack was snagging on stuff, getting me stuck. It was a bit of a nightmare. It was one point so far in this trip where I panicked a little bit. Just the thought that I'm in the most remote part right now, probably one of the more remote parts of Duck Mountain, and just the thought that it'll be a full day before I get to a known trail, that if someone was to come looking for me if I broke my ankle or something, I'm just in such a jungle, it'd be really difficult for anyone to find me in here. So just that thought, and then getting stuck in a swamp waist deep and being cold and soaked all day, kind of a humbling experience. But when I got stuck, I just took a deep breath and thought about what I was doing and grabbed onto some cattails and slowly pulled myself out. And then after I got through that, another half a kilometer of hazel, thick hazel. And then after I got through that, an intense cut block, which I've been walking through for about 400 meters now, until I finally hit this road. So that's about the most positive thing about the day so far, is this road. Looks like I'm approaching the T Lakes. I got to cross a creek that comes out of there. I'm just hoping I can get across it, because as soon as I cross it, 4 more kilometers and then I reach that known trail I keep talking about. I'm in between 2 small lakes right now, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. It's absolutely insane how bad they are. But the good news is, there's tons of cloudberries in here. These are absolutely my favorite berry. And I've eaten about 30 of them already. They just taste like marmalade jam almost. Take a good look at that. Just full of juice. Sweet tasting. It's almost like having an energy drink or something. Just seems to really boost my morale. And I still got about 2 kilometers to go, so I need morale because I am drenched, getting eaten alive. The bush is soaked. I'm walking through bogs, hazel, everything. And just in 2 more kilometers I can finally come out on a trail. And I am going to be very frustrated if the trail's not there. You know the saying, the last mile is always the toughest? Well, what about the last 500 meters? This is my last 500 meters. Now, if I can somehow make it to those aspen, the trail is supposedly gonna start right there. You can see that clearing in the canopy there. I'm hoping that's sort of where it is. Not exactly too sure if I want to try to cross this, especially not with this backpack. Could be deep. In fact, it's probably at least 4 feet deep. I think I'll walk along this bank for a while and see if I can get into the trees over there. Of course, 300 meters to go. I'm running into all kinds of problems. I just can't get across this creek. So I reached the other side of the creek where the trail is supposed to be, and it is not here. So now I'm hiking an imaginary line out to Wellman Lake Road. 7.7 kilometers to go. And I just did 10.3. And I'm getting extremely frustrated as I'm getting bitten alive here by thousands of mosquitoes as I'm trying to take one little break, and I can't even do that. I got a little bit of a story when I was crossing that creek. I couldn't find the best spot, and there's beaver dam, but only half the beaver dam was still there. So I tried kind of leaping across, and the water was well over my waist, and I still hadn't hit bottom, but I grabbed onto some willows and pulled myself back. And then I walked 400 more meters until I found a better beaver dam, and even that one was really sketchy, but I made it across it. And then I thought it was all easy going from there. As I'm walking all across the marsh, I was in waist deep water for 300 meters, and it was impossible to move. But eventually I pulled myself out of it, got on dry land, and even though there's not a trail here, I'm very happy that I'm on dry land. And since the GPS shows a trail, that's one positive thing, because it probably means at one time, maybe 20 years ago, there was a trail here, which means where the trail is drawn on the GPS is probably where good land is, because that's where they would have wanted to build the road upland, and so far that's been accurate. It's been all aspen and dry upslope, so hopefully that keeps up, and hopefully there's no more marsh crossings. I don't think I can make it to Wellman Lake Road tonight, so I'm gonna try to make it to either McGinnis or Mosquito Lake and then call her a night and find a shelter. My feet are in very rough shape. It's very unlikely that I'll continue after Blue Lakes. Well, this is it. I've come out on the main trail. It took me about 1 kilometer of wading through the bush. I crossed a few more swamps, and finally I saw some orange paint. It looked like a PSP, and then I followed that sort of, and it came out on this main trail. So I'm coming up to McInnes Lake now. I finally brought out my camera since I'm on an open trail, and there's fresh quad tracks in here. And that tells me that all the other creek crossings that I'm seeing on top of Canada are gonna be crossable for sure, because if a quad made it in here, then there's no reason I can't make it out of here. There's probably even little wooden bridges and stuff, because the quads were in here pretty recently. And as you might imagine, judging by all these bugs around my face here, I am approaching Mosquito Lake also, after McInnes Lake. You know, I'm getting closer to the point of saying I'm done once I get to that road, because my legs are now seizing up on me. I'm a little bit dehydrated feeling. The last water I had was a couple handfuls of water right out of that swamp that I was having problems crossing. That creek, I should say. And now I'm just worn out and beaten up, even worse than the last time when I had to pull out at Swan Lake. Don't have quite as bad of a headache, but my body is really seizing up on me here. The wisest thing to do would to either be to stop and make a fire and a good shelter and sit for about 6 or 7 hours all night basically, or just get right on out of here. And I think I'm almost ready to say I'm ready to get out of here. This is McInnes Lake. Found a nice little place to take a nap here. And then I still got about 1.4 kilometers to the road. I can't wait to get there. I'm absolutely out of breath. This is the hardest I've hiked for a long time. There's no question in my mind that I'm making the right choice here by pulling out once I get to the road. Not only are my feet blistered, but I also have some bad rashes on my legs now. I'm now within 400 meters of the Wellman Lake Road. And you know, as I approach this road, it's got me thinking, reviewing the trip. I don't really see it as a failure, because there's nothing really I can do now. If I was in a true survival situation, I'd basically stop and sit here for days until the weather passed or whatever it took. I'm not very mobile. My feet are in extreme pain. My boots are falling apart. And I don't mean to complain a lot, but you got to remember it has been 97 hours since my last real meal. And all I've eaten since then is 2 Vector bars, that potato stuff, that dry mix, and basically whatever I could find out of the bush. And I haven't had a lot of water either. I've been drinking out of swamps and such, which isn't good, but it did help me make it through. So yeah, considering the amount I walked, like today was probably close to 20 kilometers by the time I get out of here. So, and just the type of landscape, the bog and the hazel, when you factor that all in, I've burned far more calories than I could ever gain from that amount of food. So in that sense, I don't see it as a failure. I mean, I am disappointed I never made it at least right to Blue Lakes, but coming 10 kilometers short hitch a ride, and all I can do is say maybe next time. That is it. I've reached a safe point. Now I can hitchhike to Blue Lakes and get this ordeal over with. Sure feels good to be back on the road, but it does absolutely nothing for my feet. Hard ground, blisters, do the math, you know what happens. I normally don't hitchhike, but my feet are killing me, and I feel like they could get infected if they're not already. And the numbness has went through my legs and into my lower back a bit too. I just really am pretty much begging for a ride out of here.